Amen. Amen.
Amen.
All right. So it's been a while. Who wants to give a quick recap on Exodus 32? Do you remember anything? Anyone? Somebody?
The golden calf.
All right, so somebody else. What happened to the golden calf? What, they came across the golden calf, milked it, and got some golden milk or something? Like, what happened?
So with this golden calf, they essentially created it after Moses was gone for a long period of time. They assumed that God had vanished from them or disappeared or abandoned them. So they had pretty much demanded Aaron to create a new god for them. And with that, Aaron abided and had them take off their gold jewelry and everything, and they melted it down and created a new calf. And then Moses, I believe he knew about it before he came down the mountain. And God was about a hair's breadth away from from smiting everybody, but Moses pleaded for their sake. And then after he had kind of kept the anger of God at bay, he went down and he had his own outburst of anger. He broke the tablets that he brought down with him, and pretty much chewed out Aaron as soon as he got down there. And then Aaron only rebutted with an excuse, pretty much saying, I was being pressured by the people here to create them a new god, and so yeah, that's what I remember off the top of my head.
Amen. There was another big thing that kind of happened there, in that, whenever Moses came down and he saw these people dancing around like wildly, and we figured out, what dancing meant in this time. It means they were having an orgy. And so for those people, Moses made that call to say, those who are with the Lord, come to me. And those who, I think it was the Levites came, and Moses gave the order to kill everyone else. And so, that was a huge point, because, even when, originally God was going to, destroy everyone. And with Moses kind of interceding on their behalf, Moses made the conscious decision to say, okay, now that we see this evil or this practice coming into our society, into the nation that originally was supposed to serve God, he had to take out the parts that made them stray away from him. And so we leave with this promise from God saying that, they're going to, they need to leave. And whenever it comes time to get punished, they will be. And so we'll kind of see that kind of play more into this next chapter. If there's anything else I missed, or if there's any questions going into this one, let me know. If not, let's keep it going.
Nothing for me.
None for me.
All right, cool beans. So let's go ahead and get started. Somebody read verses 1 through 6 on Exodus 33. Appreciate it.
Then the Lord said to Moses, "Leave this place, you and the people you brought up out of Egypt, and go up to the land I promised on oath to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, saying, I will give it to your descendants. I will send an angel before you and drive out the Canaanites, Amorites, Hittites, Perizzites, Hivites, and Jebusites. Go up to the land flowing with milk and honey, but I will not go with you, because you are stiff-necked people, and I might destroy you on the way. When the people heard these distressing words, they began to mourn and never put on any ornaments. For the Lord had said to Moses, "Tell the Israelites, you are a stiff-necked people. If I would go with you, even for a moment, I might destroy you. Now take off the ornaments, and I will decide what to do with you." So the Israelites stripped off their ornaments at Mount Horeb.
Amen. So who has any notes on this?
Yeah, I had to look up what was stiff-necked Biberman or stiff-neck. I had a feeling for context clues, but it just basically means just arrogant. And it's arrogant is some other word, but
Stubborn.
yeah, stubborn, that's what it's arrogant and stubborn people to just deal with.
Mm. Yeah, good observation. Anyone else?
Yeah, for this one, it was definitely it was definitely powerful when God said, I won't go with you to this land of milk and honey, because at this point it's just like imagine you're like you made your parent angry enough times where it's just like, okay, at this point, I'm done bailing you out. I'm cutting you off from this point. With just the parent, you're probably, based on your relationship with your parents, you may be like, oh, what do I do now? I'm so lost. I don't know. So you just like in a state of panic, and you just like lose all sense of reason and all that. That seems like something that just pales in comparison to what God is doing here. Because it, like, could you imagine like God himself telling you, I won't be going with you wherever you're going from here on? That would be just straight up heartbreaking. You messed up to the point where even God is like, I'll send a proxy in my stead, but me personally, I will not be there with you. It's just like, it's a very sobering sort of statement, because at this point, the Israelites have definitely already done their part to show how fleeting their faith is in God, truly. Where one day they're like, yeah, praise him, praise his name, praise everything he's done for us, and then at the drop of a hat, they're just like, oh, let's make a new God, or we could probably get away with this and be fine with it. Where's our entitled gains? Essentially, they've gotten too spoiled on the blessings of God, to where they've kind of lost sight of what truly matters, and so now they're paying for it. So that was just a really powerful thing to hear from God himself, man.
Yeah, and it also kind of brings me to kind of recall a certain scenario that happened earlier in the Bible, to where God said, "You're on your own. You could have lived, in community with me. You could have, enjoyed my company, and all you had to do is just obey this one command or these different commands." And we saw that in Genesis with Adam and Eve, And so once again, because, these people, or we'll just say, just speak from it as, ourselves, because we decided to disobey, he, even though, he could have sent them out into the wilderness without an angel, he still decides to show mercy even in punishing us, because once again, it's not like he just sent them out on their way and that was it. And so I think that's very, it shows a very, cool character about God, in that, even when he's upset at us, we don't receive his worst. We never receive exactly what we deserve. I think it's so powerful in that even when we're doing wrong, or even when we mess up, God still gives us another chance. And even when we are, separate from him, if we choose to, walk a different path that leads away from God, it's still is God's still in the picture, you know, keeping you safe, keeping you, providing for you, as opposed to by you choosing to reject him, he completely rejects you, you know? I think that's powerful. I think it's very, I think that's a great characteristic of God.
That was something I was thinking about when I was reading this too, because it made me think of that verse that if you decide to live in sin, like God's punishment is to let you live in that sin. But when I was reading it, I was kind of wondering, like, to what extent is God not with you? Because I feel like God's spirit is anywhere and everywhere. So it's just very hard for me to visualize how out God is. Like, is he still faintly in that area? Is he just pulled out completely? I wasn't really entirely sure when I first read these verses. Because as you said, he's still kind of in the details of things.
Yeah. I think it's to a certain extent to where it's like, kind of like what you were saying, your punishment for choosing to live without God is for him to let you, you know? I think that in and of itself is, you know, mercy enough, in that you choose to live without God, he could destroy you. He could, as a matter of fact, even worse, he can make you get right. Because there were plenty of people in Genesis and even through Exodus to where God had to adjust some people. But now it's like, you know, the choice is all yours. And he's not going to go any further than you allow him to. But that doesn't mean that, you know, God is going to betray who he is because you decide to, you know, separate yourself from him, right? So, yeah. Anything else on this, guys?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and go. Man, this lesson was such a blessing to me, man. There's so much here, man. It's ridiculous. And like, I'm gonna start off with verse 4-6, man, because this was so powerful, man. Like, God gave his news, right? And it was bad news, evil tidings to the Israelites. Like, God said, you know, I'm not, my presence won't go with you, because if it goes with you, I'll consume you. Because that's how angry he was with them. And that's how it is with sin. Like, if you're living in sin and you're calling yourself a child of God, what does darkness have to do with light? Like, you can't be in good standing with God and be in sin, right? So, like, why was this bad news to them? Like, that God's presence wouldn't go with them to their blessing, to the promised land. And like, that's a question I have for you guys. Like, these people cared more about their relationship with God than they did about what he could do for them. That was the main point of like why this is in the Bible right here, right? So do you feel like, do you feel as if you are only getting the blessings of God and none of him? And now, do you feel distant from God, yet you feel as if everything else is going well for you? And are you mourning about this? And do you yearn for this to change? So this was evil tidings to them, bad news. To have God's blessings, but not to have him. Like, shouldn't that be the case for us? Like, in American culture, it's so sad. All we care about is what God can do for us and not actually God. You know what I'm trying to say? Like, would you be, yeah. And Cam even said it. Cam said, like, would you be cool with this arrangement that God gave? Like, you'll have the promised land, but you won't have me. Like, that's the, like, how do you feel about that agreement? Like, if God gave you everything you want, your promised land, all your hopes and dreams came true, would it be worth it? Like, would you want that over having the greatest relationship, the greatest intimacy that you could possibly have with God? Like, what do you want? Do you want both? Or do you just, which one would you rather just have God? Like, that's something really powerful to think about, because how many Christians think like that? Like, this whole chapter is talking about God's presence, right? And I'm not even going to spoil the rest of the chapter, but like, just with this one right here, Like, are you cool with just having a little bit of God, having him along the way with you sometimes, or do you want him completely? You know, are you cool with just having all the blessings in the world and then having a little bit of God? Because some people are, like, you know what I mean? They go to church every once in a while. They read the Bible every once in a while, but then they do their own thing because they got all the blessings of God. Everything's good. Is that the kind of life you want? You know what I mean? And then also, like, do you love God's blessings more than you love him? And do you love what God can do for you rather than just loving him for who he is? Man, these questions were so powerful when I went through them. Like this whole passage, man. So yeah, so to be given every other blessing is of no value if God is not with you. So what value is Canaan? What value is milk and honey? What value is having all the possessions if God is not with you? Because only God can protect you, right? Only God can do for you what those blessings can't do. And we'll talk about it in a chapter, but I'm going to say it just in case I forget. Like Moses said that, you know, what's going to make us stick out from other nations if you're not with us? Everybody's blessed by God. The rain falls on the just and the unjust. That's Matthew 5:43, right? The sun rises and falls on the just and the unjust, the sinners and the saints. So that makes everybody got money. You know, everybody get food. But what's going to make you stand out as one of God's children? God's presence is God himself. So like, what do you want? How are you going to stand out? Like we asked this question a long time ago. Somebody asked, how do you reach people for Christ? You know, how can I change? You know, how can I save souls? You don't do the soul saving. God does. You don't change the world. God's presence does. So if you ain't spending time with God, if you don't have God in your life and in your midst, and him continually, his just presence just overwhelming you, and like him teaching you his word and teaching you about him. How are you going to teach about something that you don't know? You know, how are you going to explain to people, you know, about the Bible when you don't study it and don't know it? You can't. So how can you talk about something you don't know? And how can you talk about somebody you don't know? That's the whole point. So it all starts here, man. Like this passage was so powerful. And I spoiled some of the lesson, but I just had to go there, man, because that's where this is talking about, man. You know, like God said, after they sinned, God was like, I'm still going to fulfill my promise to you. I'm still going to give you the promised land. Why? Because God is a faithful God and he keeps his promises, right? But don't confuse God providing for you to mean he is pleased with you. He provided manna daily in the wilderness for Israel for years in their wandering. Yet he considered them rebellious, untrustworthy, and fruitless. You know, fruitless. I said that with a list. But yeah, but that just shows more about God's character than our perceived spiritual status, right? So like, yeah, man, like this lesson was so powerful just from the start, man. I hope you guys like, y'all got anything to say after I said that?
Yeah, I kind of wanted to kind of continue further on what you said. When I was writing this stuff down, like my notes and stuff, can everyone hear me?
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yep. For me, it was kind of like, how do I put this, y'all? This chapter was so much, I couldn't really articulate my thoughts. There's so much in this entire chapter, but I guess the first thing is, are you mindful that God is going with you to your promised land? Like, you have your career choice, you have your relationship that you want, your church home, your health, all those things, right? But are you still consoling God in that? Like, have you forgotten where he brought you from, where you were, you know, all those things? And I think that kind of rolls into the next part. I won't talk about that yet for the next sections. But I think that was the main thing, was just like, yeah, are you consoling and being mindful that he's going with you and that you want him to go with you, and that that you're supposed to step by his side? Man, it's so hard because this is so much, y'all. Like, I feel like Sean, right? It's so hard to articulate this entire thing. But yeah, I I think the main thing is, you know what? I'm gonna just say that for the next section. I'm done. Somebody else can go for this section. And it's so, dude, it's so much.
Yeah.
It's so much, man.
Yeah. But yeah, I'll help you. Like, cause I mean, we'll get there. It's gonna be easy once we get flowing. Cause we haven't got there yet. But like, man, like having God is more important than anything else, man. Like you can have everything in this world, but God is more than everything else, right? Y'all studied that in the book of Proverbs, like when it said that silver and gold is better than no, God is better than silver and gold and all the wealth and money in the world, right? So having his riches is greater, man. And that's like so many Bible verses, like Matthew 6:33, you know, seek ye first the kingdom of God and all his righteousness, and all these things will be added unto you. What's all these things? It depends on the person, right? But it's pretty much the same things. God is the riches. God gives the blessings. Like he has everything laid out for you. And when you're obedient to him, you can live in fellowship with him because you're in line and walking in his will. But when you deter and disobey him and do what you want to do, will you receive his promises? Sometimes people get lucky and they get it, but most of the time, you'll get nowhere close. You'll just be wandering in the wilderness like all the Israelites. I sounded like Elmer Fudd just now. But anyways, like Matthew 16:24 through 26, that's the verses that said, you know, Jesus told the disciples, you know, if you deny me, you know, in order to be my disciples, you must take up your cross and follow me. Y'all remember that verse? And then also in verse 25, this verse was so powerful. This is the lesson today. It says, for whoever wants to save his life will lose it, but whoever loses his life for me will find it. And what good will it be for someone to gain the whole world yet forfeit his soul? Or what can anyone give in exchange for their soul? Like, guys, like, we chase after all the wrong things in this world all the time. And like, are you chasing after God? Because God should be your priority, man. Like, out of your life, I got a question for you guys. Out of your life, like, what does it say? Which relationship shows that you care about the most? I'm trying to see how I'm gonna phrase it. Which relationship do you care about the most in your life? Like, if we just looked at all your life, is it your relationship with God, your relationship with your girlfriend, your friends, with the world, or with God? You know what I mean? Which one's more? What's your priority? Like, that's what this text is talking about, man. It was so powerful because when you got God, man, I'm not even gonna say the verse, but you remember, guys, we were talking about unequally yoked last week in 2 Corinthians 6. And Paul was talking about his hardship in that verse because the Corinthians got it twisted. Corinthians thought like when you got God, you get all the blessings in the world. They thought like if you paid the pastor, and the pastors thought like, you know, it was all about money and fame. But Paul was like, man, I'm struggling as a Christian. He's like, it's not about money and fame. He said, man, as a pastor, you're not going to be known. As a matter of fact, you're going to be unknown sometimes. He said, you're going to be dying, but yet you live on. He said, you're going to be beaten, yet not killed. You're going to be sorrowful, but you're always going to be rejoicing. You're going to be poor, but yet rich. You're going to have nothing, yet possess everything. What person can do that? Only God can, right? When you're poor, you feel rich. When you're happy, when you're sad, you feel happy. When you're not at peace, and you shouldn't have peace because all the circumstances you're going through in life, but yet you still have peace. Only one person can do that, and that's God's presence and God's peace, man. So like, man, this chapter, man, that was just the beginning. And like, I'm sorry for talking so much, man, but like, this chapter blesses me so much because, guys, I want to read the verse 6 to you. Verse 6 was so powerful. It says, and the children of Israel stripped themselves of the ornaments by the Mount Horeb. So Mount Horeb is just another name for Mount Sinai. Because remember, they're going to be in Mount Sinai for 40 chapters or something crazy. Like, this is the longest destination they're going to be at. So they're still at Mount Sinai. And that's what that said. Like, the children of Israel were mourning and sad about the bad news that God wasn't going to be with them, right? And so because he said that he wasn't going to be with them, he stripped them of their garments and they took it off. They didn't keep it on. How many people do you know that are Christian, that fake Christianity? They pretend like their relationship with God is going all well when it's not. And they wear these ornaments, put on a show, and because they're so insecure about their relationship with God that they just want to act like it's good when it's not. They don't know God, but yet they talk about God all the time. That's the saddest person in the world. Why? Because the Bible says, Jesus said, many will say to me, Lord, Lord, did we not prophesy in your name? Did we not cast out demons in your name? Did we not do these things for you? And Jesus said, I will say to them, depart from me, for I do not know you. This isn't a game. God cares about your motives and your heart. And the Israelites, bro, they didn't wear the ornaments. They took it off. They didn't wear the garments. They took it off because they knew they weren't in right standing with God. Can you say you do the same thing? Or do you know anybody that fakes it like this? And I talked about this before in Matthew chapter 6, man. It says, be careful not to practice your righteousness in front of others to be seen by them. If you do, you'll have no reward from your Father in heaven, right? I don't have to act like I know who my dad is. I know my dad better than all y'all, right? I don't have to say I know my dad better than all y'all because it's my dad, right? You know. So like, so like I shouldn't have, for me to have to prove to you guys that I know my dad, that would show how insecure I am, right? About my relationship with my dad, right? Same thing for a beautiful person. If Beyonce went around and told people I'm beautiful, apparently she ain't beautiful. Why? Because she's insecure about herself. People come to her and tell her that she's beautiful. She don't have to tell people that she's beautiful, right? So same thing with your relationship with God. Like, do you have to announce it with a trumpet and put on a show? And that was the whole point of Matthew chapter 6. Like Jesus said, you don't have to pray in front of others to be seen by them. He said the Pharisees do that. They do Hail Mary prayers and think that the longer that they pray, the better their relationship is going to be with God. When in essence, he said they should just go in the closet and pray in private. That's what Moses did in this chapter. That's what we're about to see. Pray in private. And that goes back to basketball or anything. You want to be great at anything? Are you practicing it? Are you always going to be practicing in front of people? No. You're going to be practicing behind closed doors. So, like, because you're behind closed doors, great performance, perfect performance will prohibit poor performance.
Performance produces piss poor. What?
Yeah, you guys get it. So yeah, it's the same thing. Like, you got a relationship with God, you're gonna be working at it behind closed doors, just like Kobe Bryant and Michael Jordan did with Derek Kraft in basketball, right? So in order to be great, in order to have a great relationship with God, this is what you do. You don't just go to church in front of people and listen to the pastor preach, or sing in the choir, or come to Bible study. Like, that's not enough. You got to do it yourself. This is a matter of life or death. This is the only why I'm saying all this, guys. Like, are you pretending? Are you putting on a show? Are you wearing the garments, or and your relationship is bad with God? Or are you wearing the garments because your relationship is good with God and you're in right standing with Him, and He told you to put it on and you're wearing it? You guys get what I'm saying? Like, that passage, man, that last part was so powerful, man. I'm sorry.
Sean, I'm saying this out of love. We have not gotten to that part of the scripture. Can you please?
We're on verse 6.
You over here talking about Moses praying in private and doing things.
I haven't even got there yet. That's verse 6, bro. That's verse 6.
Oh my gosh. Stripped of their ornaments.
Bro, that's what they do. What do you think ornaments are? Praying, religiousity, piety.
I'm telling you out of love. I'm telling you out of love. We haven't gotten to that part yet. I love and appreciate you, bro. Say it back.
Well, I love you. I don't agree though. I don't waste my voice for nothing, but okay.
I want to add something to verse 6. So I thought, when I was reading it, I thought of, and as Miles has reiterated a lot, this whole X is all about how God saves us from our sin and putting away sin to be with God, like how sin separates us. And so the ornaments, I believe, especially with the gold and the jewelry as well that was left over from Egypt, and some of the pagan practices and everything else that might have still been left over. So that makes me think of Hebrews 12:1, and that was remove the weight of sin. Hold on, let me say it correctly. And I know Sean knows it already too. So, and I think next year for myself, I want to start memorizing verses like I used to when I was a kid. It's 12:1. Yeah. So, therefore, since we are surrounded by such a great cloud of witnesses, let us throw off everything that hinders and the sin that so easily entangles, and let us run with perseverance the race marked out for us. Continuing with verse 2, fixing our eyes on Jesus, the pioneer and perfecter of faith. For the joy set before him, he endured the cross, scorning its shame, and sat down at the right hand of the throne. So it's just anything that you have on, man, and the Bible says. This is why it's so much. I understand, Sean, bro. This is why I'm silent this time. I can't. It's so much. It's just the what's the verse? My mind's going everywhere. Where your treasure is, that's where your heart is also. You know, like what you value. And they finally figured out like what that they valued God here. They're like, no, please go with us. And it's like it's already what we've all said, like, you know, keep him with you. And so that kind of made me think of a post that Sean posted a while back about, and this was actually stuck with me for a while. Everybody wants to use God to get married, but people don't want to use God to stay married. And that's the promised land. So the promised land is, you know, like for a lot of us is to be married and have a family, right? But we don't want to just have Bible study to try and get to that point, right? Like I started this with Miles so that he could take this with his own family. And we invited everyone else so that one day when this Bible study ever stops and we don't ever meet up ever again, we can take what we learned and continue on for ourselves, first of all, and then our families, and continue to spread this through our generation. For, you know, and like we don't have the next generation of kids won't grow up like some of us did in this group where we didn't go to church, or our parents don't value the Bible and what it says about certain topics, or like, you know, like we want to thank God for the physical stuff, but we don't want to work on our spiritual relationship with him so we can get not like get even more out of him, but getting the best out of our relationship, like, you know, like a boyfriend and girlfriend would, you know what I'm saying? Like it's symbiotic, it's mutual. And then we'll see in the next section as well. But yeah, that's it for me on this part. We can move on if anybody else doesn't have anything else to say.
All right, let's keep it moving. Somebody read verses 7 through 11.
Yeah, I can do it.
All
right. The tent of meeting. Now Moses used to take a tent and pitch it outside the camp some distance away, calling it the tent of meeting. And one inquiring of the Lord will go to the tent of meeting outside the camp. And whenever Moses went out to the tent, all the people rose and stood at the entrances to the tents, watching Moses until he entered the tent. As Moses went into the tent, a pillar of cloud would come down and stay at the entrance, while the Lord spoke with Moses. Whenever the people saw the pillar of cloud standing at the entrance to the tent, they all stood and worshiped, each at the entrance to the tent. The Lord would speak to Moses face to face, as one speaks to a friend. Then Moses would return to the camp, but his young age, Joseph, son of Nun, did not leave the tent.
Amen. Anything on this, guys?
One thing really kind of stuck out was verse 11 when it comes. I thought that was really good and powerful that the Lord will speak to Moses face to face as one speaks to a friend. That line there, as one speaks to a friend, Lord really indicate and speak to me saying the Lord is really with you as like your best friend is there with you no matter what troubles or situations you go through. But Lord's there and you establish probably more than friends, but as a great bond for each other. So that verse really stuck out for me. There was another one. It was really the tent, just define the tent of meeting. And I had a thought process of it. I forgot. Get back to me later.
Yeah, good stuff so far. Anything else from anyone else? But yeah, now I want to kind of touch on some of the stuff that Sean was saying. And so in this, we kind of see three different kinds of people, right? We see people like Moses who practice, you know, going and speaking to the Lord in private, you know, constantly, you know, working on his relationship, constantly making sure he's in good standing, and to the point to where, you know, the Lord becomes a friend to him, you know? So there's that. We have the people, you know, outside of the tent, we can just call them the Levites or the rest of the Israelites, who would wait for Moses to exit the tent to be able to, you know, act like they're doing the part, or they're living the part, right? And they would stand and worship, at the entrance of their own respective tents to make it look like they were doing something. And then you have Joshua, who you see at the end, to where he stays in the tent constantly. Even when Moses left, Joshua would not leave. I feel like, towards that, it kind of shows that relationship that we should have with the Lord, or just even with just working on our relationship. If we don't have the feeling of, that the Lord is not just, some thing that you read about, or someone that you hear about in the Bible and you pray to, whenever something bad happens. Because, think about if I were to call any of you only when I need something, or only when something is wrong with me, or if I just want to ask you something. That's not really characteristic of a friend. And you see with Moses and with Joshua, that was their lifeline. They dedicated their lives towards making sure that the Lord remembers them, that he knows them. It's like, when you're in college and, the first couple of days of being in a class with maybe Dr. Chen or whoever, you would go and make sure you're in good standing with that professor. You would go to their office hours. You would bring them an apple if you're a teacher's pet or something like that, or whatever, just so you can, so whenever it's like, if they have an opportunity that comes across their desk, or if they're in need of somebody, or even if you're in need for them, they would know, okay, Avery is a good student, and I know that he would be good for this position, or he would be good for something else, right? Versus those who only go to the professor's desk whenever finals times comes around and they're looking for extra credit, really sitting there and working on that relationship, speaking to them, not just when you need something, but just speaking to God and letting him know, I'm thankful for, who you've been in my life. I don't have anything to ask for, anything that I need, but I just want to be able to tell you, thank you for being yourself, being able to be merciful to me and to my family, and keeping everyone in good health and things like that. It shouldn't always be something where the world is in turmoil and you feel like that's the last resort. It should be your first recourse for everything. And so I feel like not only should we strive to be more like Moses, but even in this situation, how Joshua did refuse to leave the tent, keeping God with him at all times. If God ain't there, I don't want to be there. If God isn't in the tent, or if the Lord isn't in the tent, or in my house, or in my family, or in my job, or in my plans, it shouldn't be my plans. I don't want it. I don't want anything to do with it, and I'm gonna make sure I'm in the tent where God is. And so that's pretty much all I had out of this section. Anyone else?
Yeah, I'm glad they're actually. Not to say they still don't have their own problems, and it's ridiculous like how much they've messed up, but I do like this section and the previous section just because at least they know that they need to go to God for their problems now. Like they don't have any other option. Like when you exhaust all your options in life, like God's seriously the only thing that you can go to. So it is good that you do see like God convening with Moses, so people going to Moses to try to pray, or like taking off the ornaments, and the fact that they were sad that God wasn't going to go with them was a good point as well. But I just like these sections because through everything they've been through, at least they're recognizing that they need God to do anything.
Yeah, amen. Anyone else?
I kind of like that this part shows like how man, guys, so much that God is our friend, and it made me ask myself and the rest of you guys, like, what does your relationship with God look like? And Miles already pointed out, like, like it's not just God our Father, and he. A lot of people just like kind of pray like it's not personal, like. Gosh, I don't know how to articulate myself tonight, guys. It's just too much. But all I'm trying to say is that, I'm trying to say this the right way, y'all.
I think I can step
in.
It's
good to honor God. Well, hold on. It's good to honor God, like, and keep him, the reverence and respect him. But the other part of it is the closest that we can have. Like, he's one of your homies. Like, do you speak to God like that? Like, what's up, man? Like, what's good? Because that part really spoke to me, like, as one speaks to a friend. Like, do I say, Miles, Alexander Pearson, how art thou? Like, I don't be like, I say, what's good, Nick? What's good? Like, and I'm not saying you have to talk to God necessarily like that, but God wants the level of transparency, talking to him in confidence and secrecy. And you might only have one friend like that, like where you can tell that friend anything, not just to receive something, but maybe you need counseling, So I think that was the part that stuck out to me the most, and just putting that out there so you guys can ask yourselves, like, are you keeping God at some level that church has kind of made you think God is supposed to be? Or is it something personal that you're taking for yourself? So yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of like the difference between, doing something, ceremoniously versus doing something out of just a general want, It's almost like it's a need. Like, if you don't drink your water every day, you're gonna pass out. Like, if you don't eat food every day, you're gonna pass out. If you don't dedicate a certain amount of time to God and truly, not just out of it's 12:30 and time to go to the mosque and start praying, and it should be something to where it shouldn't be just something that you do out of just ceremony, because where's the heart in that?
Yep, you actually said exactly what I was going to follow up with is, when something is done out of obligation, the chances of something coming from the heart is very slim to none. It's just like, let me use an example. So like, when you want to be responsible one day and then do your chores and everything, but then suddenly, your parent comes in and says, hey, can you do those chores that you were about to do on your own over there? Then suddenly, like, all your all your drive and stuff drops, and you're kind of like, man, I don't want to do my chores, even though you were just about to do that willingly beforehand. Here it's just like there's an example that I made like several weeks ago. Well, I say weeks, but it's been months at this point, where the higher you are up the chain, the lonelier it gets. It mostly applies to the corporate world, but I mean, God is as high as it gets. Like, there's no one else that's like him. And for him to want a relationship with us, lesser beings that, he created, as if we were, talking to them face to face, as if we were friends, that's very humbling, because he could easily just be like, hey, you know what? You're all beneath me. You don't need any of my mercy. You do whatever you're going to do. Like, it has no stake in it for me. I can just do what I'm doing right now and let you to your own devices and self-destruct on your own. That's not something God wants. He wants us to, as Jeremy was saying, just kind of, talk with them in a more casual way, not in a disrespectful way, but in a way where, it's just like there's that aura of familiarity in there, versus it just being like how a underling would talk to a boss that they have no relationship with, or just like, yes sir, yes master, it's just stuff like that, where it's just like, there's no heart, and it's just business as usual. That's that's something that he doesn't want. It's because he can easily tell, hey, I know you're just doing this just because it's just tradition, or you're obligated to do it, stuff like that.
Yeah. All right. Anything else from anyone else before we move on? All right, let's keep it pushing. Somebody 12 through 17.
I got you on that one.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Moses said to the Lord, "You have been telling me, lead these people, but you have not let me know whom you will send with me. You have said, I know you by name, and you have found favor with me. If you are pleased with me, teach me your ways, so I may know you and continue to find favor with you. Remember that this nation is your people." The Lord replied, "My presence will go with you, and I will give you rest." Then Moses said to him, "If your presence does not go with us, do not send us up from here. How will anyone know that you are pleased with me and with your people unless you go with us? What else will distinguish me and your people from all the other people on the face of the earth?" You say just 17?
Yeah.
Okay. And the Lord said to Moses, "I will do the very thing you have asked, because I am pleased with you and I know you by name."
Amen. Let's stop there. Anything on this section?
I think one thing I was confused by was primarily 14 and 15. Because God just said, my presence will go with you and I will give you rest. But I was wondering why Moses had rebutted, if your presence does not go with us, do not send us up from here, as if God had just said, no, what I said stands. My presence ain't gonna be with you. I think I was a bit confused to why Moses kind of not double down on it, but I guess reiterated in the case that God's presence wouldn't be with them, despite just hearing God saying, "My presence will go with you." So I think that's what had me what I'm confused on.
Okay. Essentially, I took him kind of doubling down on this in a sense that kind of showing the urgency of, I ain't going if you ain't there. How are we supposed to know, what your will is and where are we supposed to go and how am I supposed to, even when we get there, how are we supposed to, continue to go on, feeling like we're we have favor with you when you're not with us, it's kind of further driving home the point of, do you hold importance in the promises of God or the rewards from God or from just the creation? Or do you have more value in having that relationship with God? I think this is kind of to further drive home that point of, if you're not there, I can't tell all these other people, or I can't act like, you're pleased with me. I can't act like I know where everything's going. And so, for instance, with you getting ready to start your position as a manager, I'm pretty sure you were pretty nervous. But as God continues to reveal certain things before you get into that role, and then you finally, walking in your purpose, you don't have any guarantee, you don't have any answers for yourself, nothing in some sacred stones, or there's nothing you can read in your horoscope that's going to tell you that everything's going to be all right. You have to put your faith in God, and you have to know that God is with you. And so I think it's a sense of, they, even with, the promise from God that everything's going to be cool and hunky-dory and dandy whenever they get there, they would still want to have that guarantee that God is with them, because that's where the favor is. That's where the relationship with God grows. not in just receiving the rewards and keeping your hands out to be able to continuously receiving, but also knowing that God is the person that's giving it to you, and that you can tell him thank you, and that you can know that you're in good standing with him.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, I kind of babbled a little bit. Anything else from anyone else?
Babble.
I don't think I had anything much on this section right here.
I think for me, I was kind of going through the same dilemma. Actually, last night, early this week, about just where to go with my life in certain areas. It was something just so pressing. I think that's why I can't articulate. I just need to continue to consult God about it, because we haven't finished our conversation about this stuff. But like, it's just like, what's the point of doing anything if you don't go with me? And I guess I'm there at that point. Like, everything that I do, like even when I eat now, like, bro, like I'll be consoling the Holy Spirit now about what's the best choice to eat tonight. That's how deep it is for me nowadays. It's not just, oh, what do I feel like eating? It's like, no, what do I need to eat? What should we do next after we finish up Exodus? What do I want in my next relationship? Not even what do I want? I'm still working on. What does God want from me in this next relationship?
Yeah.
It's all the, like, it's like, what do you want? Like, it's like, what's the song? It goes, I am sold out, my mind is made up. Like,
yeah,
I love that song. We used to sing in the choir all the time, but like, it's just, I am sold out now. It's just like, I've gone through enough in my own mindset about how I feel. And it's not that God doesn't care about our feelings, guys, but it's like, what are your feelings to his plans? What are they? Like, what are those? Like, that's how God looks at your feelings. That's how I feel, at least. Because he be trying to do a new thing with you. Like the Bible always says, I'm doing a new thing. And you trying to hold on to your pride, your arrogance, or even sometimes just, you might want to hold on to your depression or sadness to make you feel like you got a story or whatever. Like, you just want to hold on to that. But if you would just surrender to Jesus and to God and the Holy Spirit, you can experience the fullness in his presence, and just knowing like, oh, this is where God wants me to go, even if it's uncomfortable, even if it's not something that you want, like that's what I'm going through in certain areas of my life. It's just like, this kind of sucks, but I think God's doing this to teach me a lesson so that I can ultimately draw closer to him, which ultimately brings him the glory through my testimony, So, yeah, like, and I think this whole chapter is about relationship with God, like personal relationship and staying close to him and consoling with him. So yeah, it was just funny that I was going through like that last night, and as I didn't even like read it yet till last night, guys, and it just touched me so much, man. I was like, wow. Even Moses was like, how can anyone see any different? Like how do I separate myself from the world? Like, like if we're doing the same things as the world, like what makes us any different from,
Yeah.
And it's not that Christians are better than people. I just feel like we as Christians are better off than people because we put our faith in God instead of putting our faith in the world.
Yeah, amen.
So yeah, that's it. I'm gonna shut up now.
You're good, man. Yeah, I think really what kind of drives this home for me, and we've kind of been stuck in verses 12 through 13, but it's really been kind of speaking over my heart in that, you know, Moses is truly, you know, asking, you know, not for things to be just handed to him, but he wants to find out the hard way. He wants to find out, you know, through the way that, you know, God is willing to instruct him, you know, where he's supposed to go, how is he supposed to act, you know, how does he find favor with God, you know? I mean, you see it in 13, it says, if you're pleased with me, teach me your ways so that I may know you and continue to find favor with you. And remember this nation as your people. Basically, and I'm pretty sure he was very, you know, passionate about his nation and things like that and the people that follow behind him. But really, I'm sure Moses wanted to know for himself, you know, remember me, God, you know, I'm the one that's trying to continue to find you and trying to find out who you are and how I can be better and more like you, and how do I find favor with you so you can like me back? You know, how do I continue to lead these people and walk in my purpose and things like that. I love how, you know, prior to this chapter and in 32, we talked a little bit about purpose. In that, you know, we make sure that our purpose aligns with what God has set for us and not for what we want for ourselves. And so with that, you'll ask questions like, you know, teach me your ways. How do I find favor with you and you know, remember me so that, you know, I'm not out there by myself trying to figure things out on my own, you know? And we'll see it even more as we, you know, finish up this chapter, but, you know, Moses is, you know, let's see. It's kind of like how when we think about, you know, Jesus's last words when he says, "I thirst." It's just a sense that, you know, he wants that. It's like if he doesn't have it, he doesn't know what to do with himself. He wouldn't know where to go. He would be just out out in the world, just existing, you know. And just to think about, you know, how lonely it would be to just walk around without no purpose. You have everything in the world. You can see it even in some celebrities. They literally own the world, but they just don't, for some reason, they don't have anything that satisfies them, you know? And so even with that, you know, it's important to recognize, you know, where your standing is with God. If you don't feel like, you know, you have that close and personal relationship with him, you know, hunger for it, thirst for it. If you don't know how, you know, how your relationship is or even how to start it, you know, pray over it, talk to him, start from ground one, you know? So I think that's, you know, 12 and 13, it's huge for me. Anything else?
I want to point out in 12 and 13 and with verses 1 through 6, like we read, God didn't, he said he'll bring the Israelites to the promised land, but he said, I won't go with you, right? Then he said an angel will go in my place for you. Then he said in verse 12 to 13, he said, Moses, I'll stay with you though. Like Moses, like you found favor in my sight, my grace is with you. And so God's favor was upon Moses. It wasn't upon the nation. Like God was about to turn his back on the nation. He was just going to give them the blessings, but he wasn't going to have his presence be there with them. So Moses is interceding for them in 12 and 13 and begging God, like, you know, he's begging God because the very last part of verse 13, it says, consider that this nation is thy people. Because God kept on saying, this is your people, Moses. I'm done with them. Like, this is your people. And we saw this in the last chapter. Like, God and Moses are basically debating on whose people these are. God kept on saying, these are your people. Moses was like, no, these are your people. Like, so Moses wasn't claiming them. God wasn't claiming them. But Moses was humble. And that's, man, I'm not even done with that. Like, Moses interceded. And this is just a type of Christ right here. Remember, we talked about with the priestly garments and the priesthood that the high priest is a type of Christ. So Moses is a type of Christ here. He's interceding for the Father again, on the behalf of the people and making sure that God doesn't negate, doesn't forget about, and remembers the names of his people and doesn't forget his promises to his people. So that's what Moses is doing, which is a type of Christ. So that's so powerful right there and that alone. So I just wanted to throw that out there. But I got a lot more to say. I'm going to wait to say everything till we finish the chapter.
Yeah, sounds good. Anything else? Anyone? All right, let's go ahead and finish. I'm going to go ahead and finish this up. We're on 18, right? Ace, you unmuted?
No, I was going to say I got nothing.
No, okay. All right, I'm going to read from 18 out. It says, Then Moses said, now show me your glory. And the Lord said, I will cause all my goodness to pass in front of you, and I will proclaim my name, the Lord. In your presence, I will proclaim my name, the Lord, in your presence. All these comments messing me up. I will have mercy on whom I will have mercy, and I will have compassion on whom I will have compassion. But he said, you cannot see my face, nor anyone may see me and live. Then the Lord said, there is a place near me where you may stand on a rock. When my glory passes by, I will put you in a cleft in the rock and cover you with my hand until I have passed by. Then I will remove my hand and you will see my back, but my face must not be seen. And that's it. So anything on this section?
Yeah, I did have a question. So in verse 20, when he says, you cannot see my face, for no one may see me and live. Was that part of, I guess, the punishment he was instilling on Moses and the Israelites? Or was it more like, if you see my face, you'd just be too overwhelmed by, my face, and you'd essentially just kill over on the spot?
I think this is kind of another kind of Mount Sinai situation, to where the amount of holiness in that, like in the holy ground, it's like the weight of your sins, the weight of, I guess you compared to God, it's not, you're not made to be able to see that or to witness that yet, I guess. Or I don't know. I think it's, just to boil it down to a simple answer, I think it's another Mount Sinai situation, to where it's holy ground, I might be completely wrong though.
No, I actually think Miles is pretty much on point, man. So remember when Paul was on, if you guys do remember or have read this part, I believe it's in Acts, when Paul was on the road to Damascus, and when he was converted, or saved, however you want to define it as, his conversion moment, he was killing Christians and stuff like that, and he was a Jewish leader, you know what I'm saying? And Jesus, he heard the voice of Jesus, and a bright light was shining. And Jesus was like, Paul, why are you persecuting me? And all those things. And the light was so bright, it blinded Paul for how many days?
I think it was a week.
Was it
wow.
Was it 3 days?
Was it 12 days? Is it 3, 7, 12?
I don't know. It was a while.
Yeah.
It was, but it's the power, the holiness of God is so great, y'all. We can't see it. We can't witness it. Like, there have been other verses in the Bible where, like, if even if you touch something that was so holy, like later on, I don't know if it's in Exodus or in another book, but there was a man that all he did was try to keep the Ark of the Covenant from falling, and he died because God told him, you can't touch this. This is so holy. The only way you can carry me is through the rods. That's why everything was so specific. Mm-hmm. And that it's like what Miles already said. Our sin keeps us at bay with God, no matter what we do. That's why, there's nothing we can do to make ourselves righteous. Only way we become righteous is through Jesus. That's why all these things in Exodus are showing what we don't have to do now. All we have to do is believe. Isn't that crazy? All we have to do is believe, and we can experience God. People think it's through sex and music and drugs, alcohol, like you name it, or like some type of like euphoric thing experience. And like, oh, I experienced God when I was on these drugs. Maybe an ounce, probably. I'm serious. People literally, I've met people that are like, dude, when I was on acid, I found God. And I'm like, well, I mean, I'm not going to argue with that because God put it here for a reason. So maybe you did to some experience, to some degree, or even when it is with sex, because God's in the middle of sex too. And I, you know what I'm saying? Like, oh, I experienced God when we had sex, it's all kinds of things. But like the level of his holiness, Cam, if you just don't take anything else, it's so great that we can't witness it yet. Or else literally our faces would melt off.
Yeah, and that's for anybody, angels even too. Like, and that's what you were saying. Like, there's people in the Bible who had seen God and died, which was John in the Book of Revelations. It was some other person, I can't remember, but either way it goes, nobody can take it. That's why he's in. Just like we saw with the tabernacle, you have the veil blocking you from seeing his face, and then on top of that, in this passage, Moses didn't see his face. Like we see in verse, I can't remember which one says face to face. God was with him face to face. I think it's verse 11 in this chapter. Like that's a figure of a speech. Like that just means they have fellowship and an open relationship, and it's a connection there. And it probably meant like Jesus, so God in the flesh was with him. But like either way it goes, he's not with God face to face. Nobody can be. Why? Because nobody is righteous. Nobody's holy. Nobody's pure. And that's the only person in the universe who can go in God's presence, the one who's pure, and that's Jesus. He's the only one. And I think there's some archangels that can be close, but either way it goes, nobody can, right? So like 1 John 4:12, it says no one has ever seen God. So just that part right there, no one has ever seen God. Is that so? We let Scripture interpret Scripture. If 1 John 4:12 says no one has ever seen God, what does that mean? Nobody has. So like Moses only seen his afterglow, his after effects, his backside. He didn't see God face to face. So like that's what that text is talking about as well. I don't want to throw that out there.
Yeah. Even when like Moses was on the mountain, all they saw was the foot of God. And he said it was something like lapis lazuli. It doesn't even mean that it was. He's like, the scriptures, that's as close as I can tell you. Mm-hmm. It's probably something that we don't even know on earth. Like what his feet look like, what his back looks like, all those things, man. Yeah.
That nobody even Jacob when he wrestled with God.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Still didn't see him.
And I don't even know who was taken up by the fiery chariot again.
Oh, Enoch.
Yeah. Like he was just like, wow, like it's like God just took him up. He was like, yeah, I'm gonna just take you back. He didn't die. Mm-hmm. He still didn't see God's face.
Yep. That's the sound effect I imagine. It made Get over here.
All right. Anybody else?
Get him.
All right. Anything else? I'm sorry if I interrupted somebody.
I got a whole lot, so I'm just waiting. Because I know when I say what I got to say, everybody's going to want to say something. So I can't wait.
I like the power that God was delivering in this. Like, I will show mercy who I show mercy to. I will be compassionate to who I'm compassionate to. Because that parallels when you're saying, I am the great I am. Mm-hmm. Like, by saying he's going to do what he does, like he's pretty much saying that there's no greater authority. Like he's the one who lays down that authority. So I just like that parallel right here. He's basically just laying down the law to Moses on like who calls the shots.
Yeah, and that's a very important point because, we've seen several times to where we think that people are influencing, God's decisions, as far as Abraham interceding on the people. I think it was Abraham on behalf of the people before they were going to get struck by God, or even now with Moses when he was getting ready to take out all the Israelites. We see to where, people probably mistake the amount of influence they think they have on God when really God is the one that has all control,
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's a very important point because, we'll demand compassion and demand, mercy on behalf of somebody else, but maybe that's not in God's plan, Yeah, that's a good point. Anyone else? Avery, were you about to say something?
No.
Okay. Sean, I'm gonna let you go ahead because I don't think I have anything on this.
Okay. Y'all want me to just finish off 18 to 21? Because I didn't say anything for 11 all the way to the end. But it all comes together. But so with I'm going to go back all the way up to verse 11, right? So y'all remember, actually, it's even before that, when Moses took his tent and made it into the tabernacle meeting, right? So Moses literally took his tent and just went. And he went outside the camp. That is so powerful because when he went outside the camp, people in the ancient time period, in the ancient world, that's where their synagogues and sanctuaries were. It was outside the camp. So it was outside the town. So people had to go outside. So like just him doing that was showing that they weren't distinct anymore. And remember, God wants his children to stand out from among everybody. That's what Moses said. Moses was saying back to God his word. He was saying back to God what God expected of his people. God called his people to stand out, to be a light unto the world, to not be like them, to be separate from them. And Moses literally took the tent and went outside the camp. And so that's literally being like the world, right? Because Moses he took initiative to seek God. Like all of Israel, they were repentant, right? So they took off their garments and they mourned. They saw this as bad news that God's presence wasn't going to be with them. And then next thing you know, Moses just took action. He was bold and he seeked after God. And that's what you do. See, like Jeremiah said, this is just symbolizing what the Christian faith is like, what it means to be a Christian. What do you do? When you done wrong, you repent, you mourn, you're sad. And then what do you do after that? You seek the Lord. So Moses was setting an example. He was setting a tone and showing the Israelites, this is what you do. Like, I'm going to seek the Lord for you guys. Why? So I can have a restored relationship with him and you guys can too. He already had a restored relationship with him. He was already good. But when people, and this is another thing, as Christians, we're supposed to intercede for the evil people. We're supposed to intercede for those people who are living in sin, who are far from God. We're supposed to intercede for the rebellious ones. Why? Because we were once like them. And that's called the grace of God. When God has showed you grace, you're supposed to show grace to others. You're supposed to be kind to others. When somebody's racist toward you and try to kill you, you're called to turn the other cheek. Let them do it again. Like, like that's the Christian life. Like you're supposed to love your enemy, pray for your enemies, intercede for your enemies. That's what Moses did. And these people didn't have Moses back, you know that. But some of them did, right? And that's another thing. Like Moses set the example, right? He showed them what to do. And it said literally, like when Moses went to set his tent, that some people went with him. They rose when he rose. They went where he went. Because remember, it's outside tent. It's the tent meeting was outside the camp, right? So it wasn't in the midst of the people, which God wanted to be. He wanted to be in the midst, right? So we know when the tabernacle is being built, there's going to be in the center of all the tribes, right? It's going to be in the very middle. But Moses took the tent and went outside the camp. So that means that they had to go outside the camp to worship God with Moses. And so that is that brings another point I'm about to say, and it's so powerful, guys. Like, I'm trying to look for it in my notes, but if anybody got something you guys want to add, you can go ahead and do it. But the people watched Moses and they did what Moses did. And the people noticed when they watched and noticed Moses worshiping, and then they mimicked it, right? So Moses prompted, influenced, and motivated people to draw near to God. Not only that, he did that with Joshua too. We saw that in verse 11, that literally Joshua didn't want to leave the presence of God. I'm gonna come back to Joshua in a minute, but guys, as children of God, as God's light of the world, see Matthew 6:13-14 is so powerful. This is why it's so important, so vital for everybody to know the scriptures and be able to interpret it and just regurgitate it out. Like, it should be in your system so you can know what to do and apply to your life. Like, God called you the salt of the world. Did you guys know salt has 5,000 different functionalities in this world? So 5,000 different functionalities. God could call you the worm, the dirt, the scum, the skunk, the sloth. No, he said you're the salt and light of the world. 5,000 different functionalities. And then Jesus said, what good is salt if it loses its saltiness, if it loses its flavor? How can it get salty again? It can't. It's only good to be thrown out on the ground and to be trampled on, right? So guys, as children of God, if we're the salt of the world, man, we have 5,000 different functionalities. That means when somebody has a wound in their life and they're hurting, what does salt do when you go in the salt water and you have a wound? It burns. Like, have you guys ever experienced that?
No.
Really? Okay.
I know most people do that to, I guess, stop an infection from spreading.
Right. Yeah. That's another thing too. Yeah.
Young, and yeah, it did hurt.
Right. Yeah. It sucks. So that's what you're called to do, man. People have wounds in this world. People are hurting. But when a Christian comes in a room, people should know. You should be distinct. You're the light of the world. You shine brighter than anybody else. You stand out more than anybody else. And and then Jesus said, what good is light if it's hidden under a bed, under a table? That's not how light permeates throughout a whole entire room. Light permeates throughout a whole entire room, and light's more effective when it's like in the middle of a room, on the ceiling or on a lampstand, right? That's how light's most effective. So why are you hidden? You're supposed to be a city on a hill that light can be seen, just like a town or in New York. When you're flying an airplane, when you're on an airplane, you see lights all over the place. So it's the same thing. Like, Moses was like, God, how are we going to stand out from among the other nations? How are we going to give you glory and honor if your presence isn't with us? And that's the thing, guys. If you don't have God's presence, you won't stand out. If you don't have God's presence and God with you and in your midst, you won't be the salt of the world. I only told you one functionality. Another functionality of salt is it softens hard objects. They put salt on ice to melt it. I don't know if you guys knew that. They also put salt on ice to keep people from tripping, right? So even the Christians who get trampled on, and they get people step on them and trample on them, because why? Because they're not effective. They lost their flavor. Then they're still beneficial because they keep other people from stumbling, because they show people what a Christian isn't supposed to look like. Then salt also brings flavor and brings the best taste in food. So without salt, imagine life without salt, guys. Like, just from a food aspect, how bland, lame, and awful your food would be, especially potatoes. Like, salt brings out the flavor in this world. They're the best things in this world. That's how a Christian's supposed to be. And Moses was like pleading, like, you wanted your people to stand out from the world. How are we going to stand out without you? And that's what we're called to do as Christians, guys. So again, like, this just proves the point of what I said earlier. Like, Moses is talking to God, right? He's considered a friend of God. I don't know if you guys know that Christian song, I'm a friend of God. But man, like, obviously he probably talked to God about way more things than what's recorded right here, right? Like, I'm pretty sure, how would Moses have so much confidence to deal with the Israelites? You know what I mean? Like, I'm pretty sure that there's way more conversations that they had that wasn't recorded right here, or just since all the book of Exodus, right? So apparently God's strengthening Moses behind closed doors. Apparently God has given Moses giving him everything he needs to lead the people, even though they bring him down, even though they probably discourage him, even it could be a lot of factors, right? It's not hard to lead people. So like, man, that's how like, just Christian life ain't about like, it ain't about just doing it in public. It's behind closed doors as well, which proves the point I was saying earlier, man. But like, yeah, man, like there's so much with this text, like, and then also with Joshua, guys, like Joshua was just copying what he saw Moses do. And that's what we're called to do, man. We're salt and light of the world. We're supposed to influence others to want to know God. And that's what Moses was doing with Joshua. He was passing the baton, getting ready to. God was training up Joshua, and he put it on Joshua's heart to want to be in God's presence as much, if not more, than Moses. And like, it reminded me of Elijah and Elisha when Elisha asked for a double portion and wanted to be twice as better than Elijah. Have y'all ever studied that before? But it reminded me of that kind of. But yeah, man. But here goes some questions I have for you guys, though. Like, do you feel the same way as Moses when it comes to God's presence? When he said, you know, but you have not let me know whom you will send with me. Like, I think, Cam, you asked this question, like, why is Moses talking to him this way in verses 12 to 13? Like, first of all, does anybody, I feel like somebody got something to say. I feel it. Like, anybody got something they want to say?
Nothing for me at the moment.
Oh, okay. All right, but anyways, yeah, so in verse 12, when Moses said, but you have not let me know who you will send with me. So what Moses is saying right here, Miles and Jeremiah said it, like Moses wanted the details. He wanted to know all of God's will. He even said that, let me know your will. Like, don't just send me an angel. Who are you sending? Because nobody compares to you. That's what he was really saying. Like, why would you send me an angel? You know, and we know from the scriptures that one angel can take out 1,000 men. But I'm pretty sure that one angel will probably forget about, like, you know, he can't do what God can do. You know what I'm trying to say? Like, God can do everything. He ain't limited, but an angel is. So Moses was like, man, I don't know who you sending, but that angel can't do what you can do. So I want you. So like, to Moses, the promised land was nothing special without God's presence. So man, that's why I was asking, like, do you guys feel the same way as Moses? If all your hopes and dreams come true, is it worth losing or not having a relationship with God at all? And then also, I was going to ask you guys, just for you to think about, you can answer if you want, but verse 12 and 13 was talking about God's grace. And what does it mean to have God's grace? And what does it mean to you to have God's grace, to have God's grace with you? You know, because that's so powerful, but I'm going to talk about that in a minute. But anyways, guys, like Moses was bold when he came to God. And like, y'all remember the scripture verse in Hebrews 4, verse 16, it says, let us therefore come boldly to the throne of grace that we may attain grace and find, so we may attain mercy and find grace to help in the time of need. Like, so Moses, man, he seemed rude. He seemed bold when he drew near to God, and he was determined to have God's presence in Israel and to have God as close as possible. So he just, he was so concerned about this that he went boldly to the throne room. And that's what you can do too. Like, he didn't strategize. He didn't plan. He didn't know what he was really doing, but he just set up a tent outside the camp and went in God's presence. And that is so powerful to me because, guys, like, how do you, if I ask you a question, this is the question I was going to ask you guys, like, how do you seek God? Is there one way to seek God? Only one way. So Moses took initiative to seek God in the way he knew to seek God. And that was to make a tent. So he went boldly. And again, he was setting an example of what a child of God should do to all of the Israelites. Like, there's no blueprint on how to get close to God except to go to his word, to be in his presence. So how can you do that? There's multiple ways to do it, but all it is just be in his word. Let his word speak to you and be in his presence. So you can be with other believers, be in Bible study, but just continually hearing his voice to grow in that relationship and fellowship with him. And that's what Moses was doing. So yeah, man. But yeah, that was powerful to me too. But yeah, man, like this chapter was crazy, man. There's so much that I didn't get to say. And there's so much still I want to say, but the last part I'm going to say, because that last part, I think some people were confused with it, just like with the significance of it. So I'm going to say it. One Sunday school lesson Bible study I'm going to do It's talking about like the 4 smallest things on the earth. That's what it's titled in the book of Proverbs. Y'all remember reading Proverbs 30, verse 24 to 28? These are the verses. Tell me if you remember it. It says, there are 4 things which are little on the earth, but they are exceedingly wise. The ants are people not strong, yet they prepare their food in the summer. The rock badgers are a feeble folk, yet they make their homes in the cracks. The locusts have no king, yet they all advance in ranks. The spider skillfully grasps with its hands, and it is in the king's palaces. So do y'all remember that verse? Those verses?
I have not read that one.
Oh, okay.
I don't think I remember that one.
Yeah, I remember that, especially about the ants, about like they're so tiny but like so strong kind of thing.
Right. Man.
Yeah, I remember that.
All right, Avery and Cam, y'all remember it?
Yeah. Vaguely. Mainly food of the locusts and ants, but just vaguely on it.
Okay. Yeah. So that verse relates to here. I mean, guys, we hear it all the time that God's the rock, right? Like in Psalms 27:5, it says, for in the day of trouble, he will keep me safe in his dwelling. He will hide me in the shelter of his sacred tent and set me high upon the rock, right? Like there's so many verses like that, but this is so powerful, man, because man, the 4 smallest things on the earth are exceedingly wise. Why? Because the ants are people not strong. See, ants are little. We can crush them with our thumbs. Like they're so little. But ants, man, they work together. Like ants are so cool. Like I really shouldn't be talking about ants, but like I have to. So probably ants outnumber human beings by like 1 million or 1,000. It's a crazy number, right? So if ants wanted to, they could overtake the world. And some of them do. Like some ants you don't play with. If they bite you, especially if they bite you in numbers in the swarm, you could die from it. Like it's just, and that's the thing. They have colonies and they all work together, and they help out each other. Like the women ants. So that's the whole thing about the ants. Like they're exceedingly wise because they work together. Like the women ants go out and find food. They have 2 stomachs to feed themselves and then to feed the whole colony when they get back. That's why when there's food out, ants come in swarms and in numbers to get all the food to feed their whole nest, right? And then there's different type of ants. One ant guards the door because they got a hammerhead. Like it's different type of ants like that, right? But like they're small, but they're smart. You guys get what I'm saying? And then the rock badger, I'll talk about, that's another lesson. There's just so much with ants. But the rock badgers, man, they're called rabbits, conies, and hyraxes. I don't know if you guys know what hyraxes is, but like that's what that rock badger is. It's just a rabbit. And this is the whole point of this chapter right here. Like the rock badgers are a feeble folk, which means like they can't fend themselves. Like what can a rabbit do to defend themselves? Bite somebody? Like what is that going to do? They'll still end up dead. So they can't defend themselves against a snake, a lion or something, because those type of animals will eat them, right? They have nothing to fight, like no offensive weapon, no venom, nothing. So we're the rock badgers. We're a feeble folk. Anything can take us out in this world. If a big old flaming what is it called? Meteorite or whatever strikes the world, what are we gonna do? Like somebody can shoot us dead right now. Like we can die instantly and so easily. So we're a feeble folk. But the conies are so smart, the rabbits so smart that they make their homes in the cracks. So that means when a snake try to attack them, when a bear try to attack them or something like that, they're smart enough to outrun them and then just go in the rock. And when they go into the rock, that's what the cracks mean. They're in the rock. And so the snake keeps on butting their head on the rock, or the bear, they can't get into the rock because the rabbits are small enough to get into the cracks. And that's where we find our shelter. Jesus is the rock. God is the rock. That's plenty of scripture verses. So if we're smart and wise, we'll be like the rabbit and go to the rock where our protection is, where our shelter is. And that's where Moses was. Moses was in the rock. God's hand was protecting him and from what was coming. And that's what God's going to do with you in every single circumstance and adversity you face in life. If you're wise enough to go to him for protection, the rock, you got to run to him in the midst of anything that you're going through, right? So that's the whole point of that last verse, man. But yeah, I probably should have talked when we had all this stuff going out. But like, the last thing I want to say is, man, like, this question is powerful, all right? Are you content with what you already have experienced with God, or do you want to experience more with God? Because the whole point of this chapter is, man, guys, how much has Moses seen of God already? right? How many miracles have he seen? He's seen more miracles than we'll ever see in our lifetime, right? Like he saw the God challenged all the gods of the Egyptians with the 10 plagues. He saw the Red Sea part. He saw God feed them with manna and water in every single desert that they were in every single wilderness. Man, God did so much for him already. But yet Moses wasn't content. He still wanted to see more of God, right? He said in verse 18, please show me your glory. Have you not already seen it, Moses? And that's how it is as a believer. How much do you want to see of God? God's going to let you see as much of him as you want to see and as you chase after to see. And that's the thing. Moses asked. There's so many scripture verses that say, ask and it shall be given. Seek and you should find. Knock and the door will be opened to you. You know, to those who ask, they have. To those who seek, they'll find it. To those who knock, the door will be open unto them. And guys, like there's so many verses. I'm not going to talk about it, but man, if a evil person on earth gives their children things that they ask for, what makes us think that God won't give us things that we ask for, right? So man, like Moses, bro, like, and that's so powerful because like Moses seen it all, yet he wasn't living in the past. He knew that God still had more to show. He knew God still had more to offer. There was more about God. And that's the thing. The more you seek God, the more you realize there is to know about God. The more you're in God's presence, the more you want to know God's presence and experience even more. Like, so a person who's content with their Christian life and just content with their relationship with God and don't want to do anything with it, that shows how prideful you are. Like you're just living back in 1994 and you know what he did for you back then and saved you. And that's where you're living at. And you don't let him move you any further. You don't grow in your relationship with God. That's so sad, guys. And we can't afford to be like that. So yeah, I just want to throw that out there, man. Moses was powerful, man. But yeah. If y'all want to know anything else, let me know. But I'm gonna stop.
All right. Anything else, guys?
Might have been 1994.
Man, I'm just saying, man. Some people, I know a lot of old people like that.
Yeah, 19.
Oh, is that when you were born, Avery?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, most except for Cam. He's old.
Dang. Well, I'm older than Cam, so.
Y'all old people in this chat.
I was 3 years old.
Man.
Dang, were you born in 89?
In 94.
My man saw the tablets come down the mountain.
I was born in that.
Oh, okay.
Still don't know why Jairus didn't let his people go, man. I'm gonna stop. Anything else before we go into closing?
No, nothing for me.
Nothing for me.
Nah.
All right, let's go ahead and close out Bible study with a prayer. Who wants to pray us out today?